Hello, Facebook Live, and welcome to Ramp Up Your Professional Style. This is Kelly with Kelly Dugan Image Consulting, and we are super excited to have you join us here today, whether you're joining live and or later viewing our recording. So again, today we're going to talk about ramping up your style and introducing you to personal style development. So our agenda and the presentation flow of our discussion today is going to be talking about really what is personal style and how do you get that, developing your own professional style within that, and looking at two pillars to image development, which is color and proportion and line. As you'll learn about personal style here as we go, that there are other components within that, but today we're going to focus on color and line. So what is personal style? Personal style is really that totality of your look. It's that head to toe continuity within look. It comes from within, I would say. It's that outer expression of an inner attitude about ourselves. Really great personal style resonates with you from within to looking at what your physical characteristic traits are and combines that together. So now we all have personal style, just some more readily, easily express that on their own. But the beauty is that we can all learn personal style development and use it and apply it for ourselves. Now, with that thought, particularly when we think about the times we've been in with turbulent times, we know that there's change and transitions in life. Now, the wonderful thing is that personal style really is a lifelong process, and it travels and moves along with us. So it does change and evolve, and you can step in and come into personal style development. If this is all new to you and you've never even considered or thought about it, one, you actually do have a personal style, but you can put this into your life wherever it is that you are today and use it to create many great things for yourself. And I say this just from a point of that I practice what I preach, and I've done that for going on 25 plus years, actually even probably longer if I think back. So with that, within creating personal style, the attributes that we see, three main one is that it's fashionable. It's not all the latest trends. It's current, but not trendy. It's classy. You know, we all have experienced probably that individual who walks into the room gracefully and put together every time. That's personal style at work. Some may come about that, again, all on their own, but all can learn it. And what it is, it's just a look of quality, continuity, richness, but the best and the beautiful thing about it, that it doesn't take a huge bank account. It does not take the perfect body, the perfect situation, that we all can actually have that. So when we think about developing your personal style, it works off from really some basic design principles of understanding color, line, style, and how to put it together and finish and so forth. So with our conversation today, we're going to think about and have you really put into play knowing how color can work for you. Now, you may be familiar with color analysis from bygone eras. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And then understanding what lines flatter your body. That's that proportion and line component. We're going to talk about body silhouettes today. Next, going forward, because this is one of 3 sessions, we're going to look into how we finish and put that together, and that's closely aligned with what our clothing personality is, what our style is, but then on how to finish, kind of, you know, how do you put the frosting and decorate that cake? We're going to talk about that through our mini sessions as well. And also think about it in the sense of understanding what's appropriate for you and the role that you're in, or the roles that you're in, where you want to go career-wise within appropriate dust. You know, thinking about the industry that you're in to the position you're in now to where you want to go. You can use your presence and how you package yourself to open the doors that you desire to be able to move yourself forward in your career. Within our thoughts of these basic principles that you're going to learn about through their session time together, it's going to build a foundation to allow you to create not only a competent style, but again, truly an authentic presence that will support you and it will be information that you can apply to what you do with your hair, to your garments, and makeup and finishing. Let's talk about color analysis. You may be familiar with color analysis of the bygone days of Color Me Beautiful. Here on our screen, we are looking at the spring and autumn palettes, which are warm palettes, and the summer and the winter palette, which are cool or blue-based palettes from the early days of color analysis. Today, actually, I use a 12 palette approach, which combines some things, because what we found are people were kind of lost in different places where they didn't quite fit in one, or they were coded one season, one time. And today, actually, I don't even use the seasonal terminology, but that's that foundation in the history of color analysis. Today, when we think about color analysis in the 21st century, it's a color flow process. So still, it's rooted in if you are warm or cool in your undertone. It is still rooted in what old days of color analysis showed as if you were in high contrast colors that were bright and clear, or if you were in more muted or muddy tones. If you look at the difference between the color palettes here, you'll see that they are cool and warm and high contrast and low contrast. But within that, now with color, that you actually have a flow with it, which we'll talk a little bit about as we move through. So color today recognizes that color changes for us individually as we mature. Our coloring softens, so you might not change palettes, but how you use color within your palette might change. That no one is one specific season. Like old color days talked about. Today, I'll share for myself, I am a summer, in old terminology. I'm cool and muted and soft. So my palette picks up these cool muted tones, but a bit of warmth, neutral warmth out of the autumn palette. So we look into the individual's true hair color, skin tone, the colors and the patterns in their eyes and so forth. It takes a much deeper, broader view of your own natural coloring to really fine tune a palette that is specific for you. Today, color palettes like this one here come in multiple chips. We could even add more in. They're great because they actually build in a wardrobing system on the back. You're not going to be able to read that there specifically, but what it tells you is the name of the color, the temperature, if it's cool, warm, or neutral, how to use it in your wardrobe. Like I said, it's a wardrobing system in itself. So there are core, basic, and accent colors in the palette. Then it also goes into the effect and the lifestyle better for those colors to use. So you can use color to communicate and help you get done what you want to get done. Or you can use color to impact yourself and how you feel that day. So color is very powerful and goes many places. So within that, though, as we think about color for yourself and how you could use color today, and I'd like you to kind of leave with us some thoughts with color, is recognizing that that contrast itself is really important. We've talked about that these tones are a higher contrast and these are more muted and softer in tone. We're going to help you kind of self-assess maybe which direction you go if you don't know that. Also, if you've had your colors done in the past, again, like we learned, things change. Maybe it's time for an update, and maybe this more advanced system is the thing for you to do. But within that, the beauty of it all stands is that no color is ever eliminated completely. You can wear any color out there. It's just maybe how you're going to wear them, or the undertone, or the weight of the color that you're going to wear them. So thinking about, so you can kind of start to self-assess yourself. Let's look at some examples of maybe some famous ladies here that you could close your eyes and you could picture in your mind what they look like. So let's do this for a moment. Close your eyes, and I'd like you to picture Courtney Cox. Courtney Cox, if that name doesn't ring a bell, she was on Friends for years. Courtney has dark black hair, shiny black hair, super clear, bright blue eyes, and more of a porcelain skin tone. Her coloring is very high contrast. If you look at that natural hair color to her skin tone and to the brightness of her eyes, that's all super high contrast. Another individual, because it doesn't matter your skin tone, if you're white, black, brown, yellow, whatever you might be in your tone, that you're still going to be cool or warm, and you're still going to have medium to high contrast in your coloring. But we look at Viola Davis, who's a beautiful African-American woman. If you look at that contrast of the depth and yet clearness of her eye color, the whites of the eye, the contrast, the super depth of her skin tone and darkness of her hair, all that has high contrast and power to it. Would be another high contrast example. Emma Stone in another color category of a warmer undertone person. Again, that bright, clear, strawberry blonde, reddish tone of hair, but with her honey, milky white, more porcelain skin, and that aqua bluish green eye color pop that's clear and bright. Those are all high contrast. So if you picture those ladies in your mind, or go look them up, again, Courtney Cox, Viola Davis, Emma Stone, those are going to be examples of high contrast individuals. So they themselves are going to want to wear these brighter palettes. Now in color analysis, you can take it further and know, are they better in cool or warm, and then the flow. But for starts, let's learn if we're high contrast or medium to low. So as we look to medium to low, ladies, I'd like you to, again, close your eyes and picture in your mind would be Halle Berry. Again, another beautiful African-American woman. But if you look at the softness of the brown of her skin, her hair color is deep, but it's not stark black in tone. Her eyes are a bit softer in tone, so her coloring in her skin tone has more, it's softer, but it has color to it in the sense, if that makes sense. As you think through it and look at a picture in your mind, you'll see this, but her contrast is medium to lower. Next would be Reese Witherspoon, who has coloring maybe a little more similar to mine that you can see in the screen, that little nutshell, that soft blonde to light brown, more of a rosy skin tone, a bit of color to it. Eyes are a little smokier, softer, not stark clear in tone, medium contrast. And another individual to think in your mind would be Drew Barrymore. A little bit more depth to her hair color. Her skin tone is more medium in weight. Eyes are heathered, probably, I believe she has more of an aqua to a aqua green to a hazel eye. So they're softer in tone. So those are your medium to low contrast. So what I want you to do is self-assess yourself just from thinking of those individuals to considering some of these questions here. What's your skin tone contrast to your natural hair color? So no makeup on, hair, just your natural color. Consider your hair color and your contrast to your skin tone. Is it pretty tone to tone in color, or are there extreme differences? Do you have that super milky white face and skin tone and dark hair? Then you're high contrast. If you're headed more in my direction, you're going to be medium to low. Another thing you could look at is the contrast with your eye color. Are they clear? Is the color of your eye super clear and very bright and vivid? Or is it softer and dusty? If it's a mix of colors within, it's probably going to be a little dustier. Clear eyes are more of a solid tone or color. Could still have some pattern within it, but a little more solid. If you're not sure, compare. Go around and look at eyes. That's always a great way, or look them up online if you don't want to freak people out, I would say. So and another way that you can look at color is think about what colors you get complimented in and feel good in. However, I think those first two to assess where you're really looking at your own physical characteristic traits are going to be the better way to assess your color. So I would encourage you to determine, are you, what your contrast in your coloring. Are you high contrast? Can you, again, carry those brighter, clear colors of what's being shown here in the spring and the winter palette? Or do you need colors that are softer and more muted? Good start to color. Next, we want to look at that second pillar to style development, and that is proportion and line, which begins with our body shapes of our silhouettes. They also have silhouettes within the sense of vertical proportions, but today we're going to look solely at horizontal proportions and what maybe you've read about in magazines or seen online in articles on it. You know, are you an apple or a pear or H or an A? That's your body silhouette, and that's where you want to start when we think about looking at proportion and line and laying that foundation to developing a great style. So what we have here on our screen from right to left are a few of our main body proportions for horizontal line. We have the 8 or the hourglass frame. We have the H or the rectangle frame. We have the A or the triangle frame. Now flip this around, not pictured, but in your mind, flip this around to the V frame. It's the opposite, where the shoulders are broad and the hip line is narrow. So more the hip line of the scale here, but a broad shoulder. So again, you have that V shape silhouette. And then you have here the oval or the diamond. Now, depending on the breadth of the shoulder, that's going to change this. This is the full figured gal, where you look at your balance of your shoulder to the hip. If you're narrower at the shoulder, then you're probably a diamond. Have some angularness to you. If you're balanced more so from shoulder to hip, but full through the midsection, and more rounded in your features, then you're more of an oval body proportion. So now, just having stepped and walked through this, you may have put yourself in one of these frames. But what I'd like you to do is do a quick self-assessment, and then I want to leave you with some tips and strategies for using color and surface and texture to apply to your body frame. So some questions I want to have you answer for yourself in the self-discovery of horizontal or body silhouette proportions are thinking through, what are your real challenges for fit? Is it finding a pair of pants that fit over your hip line but aren't gaping in the waist? If that's the issue for you, probably you're going to fall into this triangle or A frame where you're broader through the hip, but you still have a waistline. Or you could be the individual who is rectangle shape with a little bit broader shoulder, or the opposite of this frame where you're that V frame with the super broad shoulders, large bust, and it's finding a top, a sweater, a jacket, and so forth that fits around that shoulder line and across the breadth of your back and so forth without pulling and tugging. Those are two common fit issues in garments that help guide me into specifically a specific body frame when we're thinking silhouette. Another question to think through would be, do you wear the same size garment on top and bottom? If you do, you're probably going to be falling into, I can get my cursor to go, this rectangle or the hourglass frame where you are balanced from shoulder to hip. Your proportions are very balanced and it's easy to wear that same size from top to bottom. So in the day of wearing suits, you could buy that matched suit that had the same pant, where those of us who are in these fuller figures to unbalanced frames are going to be better in mixed match separates. And maybe you found that that would be the case, particularly if you're wearing a style of garment, say like a suit or a suited look, that you buy the ensemble so it goes together. Now, the individuals over here, particularly in the V or the A frame, proportions where they're not balanced, where either the shoulder or the hip line is larger than the other, is going to have probably two different sizes in their wardrobe. Those who are the triangle, like are shown here, that triangle or A frame, is going to wear a bigger size pant with a smaller size top, more than likely. And vice versa for the V frame, where they're going to wear up a size probably on top to accommodate the shoulders breadth and the bust line. But because they have chicken legs and no fanny, they're going to go down a size, maybe even two for the pant. So self-assess yourself. What do you have in your wardrobe right now in size? So think those through for a second. Another exercise that you can do too, if you have, I'm just showing you a 12-inch ruler right now, but if you have a yardstick and you hold that yardstick off from the edge of the shoulder to the hip line here, if we had a straight edge going there, we're going to see that that was on an angle. If you hold it on the balance frames from that shoulder to the hip line, you're going to see that it's going to run straight up and down. So that's going to help you with your silhouette shape too. Now it's best to do it if you have 2 yardsticks. In my studio area, when I work with clients, I use dowel rods, and we take those dowel rods and put them up, and they're either straight or they're at an angle, one way or the other. And it lets us visually easily see the silhouette. What it allows you to do is then step away and just look at the ruler or the guide itself versus all the body parts and everything else. So it lets you see if it's upright. And if it's not, how far, you know, are you just slightly out of balance or even more so? So that can change more extremely as well. So now that we've kind of self-assessed what our proportion is, what we want to think about is what your real goal is. And what I would say and how I teach proportion in line is to create balance. So now there are very few of us who are this true hourglass where you're completely balanced and that waist is 10 inches smaller and it's the perfect frame, or at least what society has named the perfect frame. Well, the beauty is all of us can elude the eye. Again, that visual illusion thing. We can all create a balanced frame, or we can all make ourselves look like that figure 8 if we want. You can also use proportion in line to accentuate areas that maybe that are already large. Say you're large busted and you want them to appear larger. You can make the bust line appear even larger, you know, in other areas of the body, you can do the same thing. But a quote that I've used and keep in mind forever, and I want to teach you here today, is this: what you really want to achieve is the thought of to maximize the minimum and minimize the maximum. I'll say that again. You want to maximize the minimum and minimize the maximum. So those who are balanced don't have many challenges other than the H frame here who does not have a waist. You can create the illusion of a waist. That is done more by body lines within garments and so forth. Somewhat color will help, but that's a little bit more advanced than what we're talking about today. But you are already balanced, which is nice. So both of these frames here in the hourglass and the H have lots of options of what you can do in placement of color and texture and pattern that we're going to talk about. Those that are fuller figured and into the V and A frame need to balance their frame out. So to make those hips look smaller, we need to broaden the shoulder, and vice versa. For those who are super broad shoulder but chicken legs and no hip line, we need to give some width to the hip line to balance the frame out. And then the fuller figured woman, that we can do things with color and line and design elements and so forth to narrow and slim the midsection. And actually create that waist that's missing as it is more full. So what we want to leave you with here, or guide you into right now, is some things that you can think about to do that with. So you've kind of self-assessed which frame you're in. You want to think about, you know, what is the bigger area, or if you are balanced, we want to think in 3 areas. So color is where we begin. When we think about color, we've already talked about like the contrast of color, that there are bright and light colors, there are dark and medium colors. So keep this in mind, that bright or super light colors can make an object or part of the body stand out and or appear bigger. So the full hipped gal who wants to minimize that hip line probably shouldn't put bright colors on the hip line. They are better off to put bright colors, light colors up on top instead. The full figured gal who wants to have the bust line and the tummy and so forth look smaller is better to wear a dark top underneath, and then maybe put a pop of color on the outside with a layered piece with a cardigan or a novelty jacket as an example. So again, you're going to put bright or light colors on areas that are smaller. Where dark or medium colors, particularly dark colors, will help things in the visual appearance recede and look smaller. So hence that fuller figure lady in the center, we recommend putting a dark top underneath versus a light top. So that's how color can work for you. Then you lucky folks over here in the balance frame, you have freedom to do a lot with color. Next, you want to think about the surface of the color. And that is the appearance. Is it shiny? Does it have sheen, or is it matte? So when we think those shiny or maybe metallic-y kind of finishes on fabrics, the surface finish, again, shiny surfaces are going to make things stand out and protrude, be bigger. Again, we want to maximize the minimum and minimize the maximum. So think about your larger area. Do not put shiny fabrics that have metallic on the larger area of your frame. Put it on the smaller area of your frame, where matte finished fabrics will allow things to recede and appear smaller. Another thing to think about would be texture and bulks of fabrics. Heavier weaves, we're in winter weather right now, so if you think of tweeds and corduroys, maybe the fleeces or faux fur or fur, all those heavier, weightier fabrics are going to add volume to the frame. So again, we want to maximize the minimum, minimize the maximum. If you are super broad shoulder or bigger on top, if you're bigger boned, you can carry some heavier weights of fabrics and scale easier in this frame, but there's still, you have the potential, it could make you look bigger than you are. The V frame, if they were super broad shoulder and large busted, but still, you know, medium frame or smaller, that if you put really heavy weighty fabrics on them, it's just gonna be very out of proportion and make that upper bust and shoulder even broader. Where the other side of when we think about texture and bulk is where more of a refined weave, a smaller gauge knit, sweaters that are finer in their weave and so forth are going to keep the scale or the size smaller, and again appear like it's receding and making that area of the body that it's on smaller. But what you want to do is combine that together with color and the surface. So those are some tips and thoughts, along with that you've self-assessed where you feel your body proportions are, and again, that's the foundation where you begin. One other quick thought, and we've really just talked about color in the sense of solids, would be to think about pattern. And a pattern is considered much when you think about the scale of your body. So you can self-assess your own bone scale, and knowing if you're small, medium, or large bone with a simple wrist assessment. What I say is with your fingers. Actually, I'm going to use this hand. So if I take my fingers around my thumb and my middle finger, sorry, I'm not doing bad things right now, but you want to take that middle finger around and reach around on the wrist here. I think you can see. So if I do that here with my hand, so you just see the fingers, my fingers touch right at the tip. So if your fingers touch right at the tip when they're grasping around your wrist, then you are a medium scale. If they overlap, that first finger or that middle finger comes over and overlaps onto your thumb, your wrist, on your wrist, you are going to be small bone scale. If they don't meet that first finger and the thumb, then you are of larger bone scale. So that will give you some idea. The larger bone scale you are, the bigger the print that you can wear and have it be in balance and harmony with you. Also thinking about the textures and the bulk. If you are a large boned person, you can carry heavier weighty fabrics and so forth, and it's just going to look average and normal on you, really, no matter what your frame is. So take a minute and assess your bone scale and know that that will help guide you within some of these components as well. So today we've done what I feel a solid but quick introduction to color and line, which is again that foundation, those two pillars to style development. And no matter what you're doing, we're talking about garments and clothes, but it could apply to any other area of design and so forth too. But you've got a good solid foundation to understanding color and line for yourself. Next, what we're going to do in our second session is move into that third principle in building of those basic principles of building personal style, and it's understanding clothing personality. There are 6 core clothing personalities. We have a primary and then some secondary, possibly some third influences. And our session next week will be about discovering your clothing personality. So we'd like to thank you for being here with us. I just want to share a little bit of information about Kelly Dugan Image Consulting, and then I'll close with some closing comments to think about what you can do in steps for moving your personal style development forward. So first, we'd like to invite you to check out our new website. We are super excited. We have a new website that just launched a few weeks ago. So you want to visit kellyduggan.com. Within that, because we're talking about personal style development, I would encourage you to for sure check out the personal image page. Within that, that will introduce you to all of our style studio services that are in person. I have packages as well as virtual services. We've got you covered in developing personal style. So if you liked what you heard here and you want to learn more, or you just want somebody to do it all for you, we've got you covered. We can help you out there. Next, if you want to continue to learn more, you've got all kinds of options through us within complimentary and free options for learning. One is to stay on board and come back next week and be a part of session number 2 of our mini series for Ramp Up Your Professional Style. Again, we're going to be talking about clothing personality. In our 3rd session, we'll be talking about finishing and accessorizing, so it'll help you complete your look. So I hope you come along all 3 sessions, whether it's live and or in the recorded format. And then again, that will be next week on Wednesday the 17th at 1 p.m. on Facebook Live. And then also you have the opportunity when visiting kellyduggan.com you will see that you can download a great ebook called Making Your Mark. It's 101 image essentials for the professional, packed with lots of information that any professional will want to refresh on, be aware of, learn more and new on. It's a great thing, as well as that will include you in our monthly Image Matters news, which is in a professional executive presence focused monthly newsletter. And no, we don't like load your inbox. I have to write it all, so don't worry about that. And then lastly, I'm really excited about a collaborative project that's going on right now. If you are on camera like this, if you're leading presentations or you just are on meetings and want to speak up and feel more comfortable doing that and engage in a more professional manner, then I am going to encourage you to check out upyourdigitalgame.com. That is, again, a collaboration of expertises with Dominic of Gladstone and Associates, and my 25 plus years of image and personal brand development expertise. And what you get with that is a great download ebook, just packed with personal brand and tech guide information for presenting your very best electronically, Zoom, Teams, whatever it might be, whatever your platform, Facebook Live, that this download from, again, upyourdigitalgame.com is something you're going to want to check out. So visit that page and get your download there. So you're joining us here on Facebook, so you're obvious on Facebook, but please make sure you do follow and like us here at Kelly Dugan Image Consulting. Also, we're on LinkedIn as Kelly Dugan and Instagram as well. So follow us and like us there. Now, in closing, like I said, a few thoughts as we leave you. And then we'll wrap things up. First, I'd like to thank Catherine. Catherine is an intern that I have in the office, and she so graciously put this wonderful slide deck together for us today. So we thank Catherine for the slide design for today's program. And then some thoughts to leave you with, again, on developing personal style. The benefits of personal style development will allow you, what I say is that privilege of truly portraying your very best self, to be truly, authentically, confidently yourself. And I don't know there's anything else that really can come up against that one, where you just feel comfortable and confident in your own style. It is going to allow you, again, that comfortable and confident style. It's going to allow you to dress in half the time. It's going to give you a strategic plan when you shop or clear out your closet. It's going to give you the ability to run into your closet and grab and go and put together a look that looks fabulous. You're going to have fewer garments in your wardrobe if you'd like, which can give you if you want to, do investment dressing, you can have fewer, nicer pieces and more looks. Can't go wrong there. And it will allow you to do that with much more accuracy. And you'll be done with the garments hanging there with tags still hanging on them, or the garment that you bought and you thought you liked and it just kind of laughs at you like, why did you buy me? I know we've all experienced that. There was a day I did. No more. I've not done that for years because, again, I practice what I preach. I use daily these same principles that I'm teaching you. So with that, if you haven't assessed your color and proportional line, do so. If you want to learn more about that, visit kellyduggan.com and check out the personal image pages of our style studio services, and join us on the 17th at 1 p.m. on Facebook Live for learning about clothing personality. So thank you for joining us and have a great day.